All right, picking back up with our classical civilizations. Hold on, I'm gonna restart my timer. Okay, so these are like all the classical empires. So this is what is known as the classical period. So it's from the rise of like Persia and Mauryan and Gupta India all the way through like the collapse of Rome. So it's from around 600 BCE to 600 CE. Oh, you can't see the little Moana people down there. If at any time you're watching this, feel free to pause, go back, rewind, read this stuff, look over it. Like I said, it's all really important. So we kind of need to make sure that you've at least looked at it. All right, as far as old religions, those are still carrying over. You have Judaism and Hinduism. Remember, Judaism, it's ethnic, emerged from Hebrew monotheism, the first monotheistic religion. Remember, Hinduism was like the religion in India. It was the only religion for a while. And that has like the caste system and reincarnation and karma. And so those are words you need to learn to associate with Hinduism. New religions that pop up, out of Hinduism, you have Buddhism as an alternative. And it's very popular because of the fact that there is no caste system. It's more of a philosophy. Everyone's viewed as equal. And so it's very, very attractive, especially to people of the lower class. It's along the same lines as Christianity, which comes out of, it has its roots in Judaism. Remember, Jesus was not Christian, he's Jewish. It's going to later be spread by Paul and other missionaries, just like Buddhism is spread by missionaries. And Christianity was also popular because it was accessible to everybody and it made everybody equal. And so when you are a lower class or a woman, where both Christianity and religion allowed people to participate equally, these are both very, very attractive alternatives to pre-existing religions. In China, we get our three philosophies of Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism. Remember, with Confucianism, that emphasizes the 5 relationships and like your place in society. Like you have a rank, you need to be respectful. They felt education was very important, which is why like all China's education system for a while is going to be based off of Confucianism. Taoism are the ones that I call the hippies because they're just kind of relaxed. So it's like we're just going to go with it. They believed in balance and harmony and nature, which is why their symbol is the yin yang, because everything has to be perfectly balanced. And then legalism is all about harsh laws and strict punishments. And then remember that those 3 Chinese philosophies came out of the Warring States period. And art and architecture is going to reflect the values of these religions. So like you have Hindu temples, the Romans, they built the Colosseum for their philosophy. You have the stupas and the rock pillar edicts in Buddhism. So architecture is going to reflect the values of religion. Okay, so Persian Empire, don't forget Persepolis over here. They have their royal roads, which are connecting their empire. They're a bureaucracy, like the first big empire is the Persian Empire. Other things to remember about them, they have their qanats, which are their irrigation system. They're divided up into provinces. Like I said, they're a bureaucracy. They are constantly invading the Greek city-states, and then eventually they get conquered by Alexander the Great. Qin and Han China. So these are our 2 dynasties. If you notice on the map, Han China, it's got like this nice long little tendril going off over here, and they made sure they controlled the Silk Road. And this shows you kind of how trade was important to China because, like I said, their empire is going to make sure that they encompass the Silk Road. So China, again, everything's based off of Confucianism. Know that they're a bureaucracy. They're still following the mandate of heaven. And like I said, coming up with things like silk, which is their big main trade product. They have paper. They're starting to have all these advances in arts and science. Architecture is big. If you watch the crash courses, it talked about the terracotta army that's there. That's like kind of their monumental architecture because you have all these thousands of soldiers that were commissioned. Like I said, everybody's going to be connected at this point and just kind of know they're all doing their own thing, but at the same time, they're also connected by trade. You have Mauryan and Gupta India. The Mauryans pretty much were the centralized part of India. Remember, they pretty much control everything, so they had to be centralized. They had to have a strong government. That's with Ashoka, who ends up converting to Buddhism and helps spread Buddhism and makes it more popular. Then you have the Gupta, which is outlined in the red, and that's more the decentralized part of India. So the ruler was very hands off, and that's going to kind of lead to the decline of the empire because they do end up getting invaded by a group called the White Huns, and that's what helps bring them down. Okay, we got the Greeks. So know that the Greeks were organized into a whole bunch of different little city-states because of their geography. They were kind of cut off and isolated from each other, so they never really politically unified. And so this is why you get like Athens and Sparta, which are the two big ones that develop completely different. So each city-state or polis kind of was its own thing. Athens was a democracy where every citizen voted, and so that's kind of their wheelhouse. Sparta was more militaristic, and everything for them was based around their military. And even when you get to ones like Pylos and Troy and Corinth, like every single city state in Athens did their own thing. But they're really big into trade, which is where you get this whole little Phoenician triangle. So they pretty much are trading all around the Mediterranean because that's how important trade is for them. Hellenistic, this is when Alexander the Great comes in and kind of conquers all of the Greek city-states, and then he starts pushing east. He goes and conquers Persia, goes all the way to India, and so this is going to go help spread Greek culture all throughout Asia, which is why you have statues that kind of have adopted like Greek characteristics. So you get like buff Buddha, who's really Greek and isn't the fat little Buddha that you see in China, because that's a different form of cultural diffusion there. With Rome, so some things to know. Remember, Rome started off as a republic first, and then it goes and becomes an empire. The person that you really need to know is Augustus, who became emperor, like I said, and it was a monarchy. He set it up as a monarchy, so it's an empire disguised as a monarchy. So people really didn't think anything of it, but they really didn't like the fact that he was an emperor, because before they were a republic and they had the Senate. But Rome is going to be an empire for the pretty much majority of its history. You had your two social groups, the patricians and the plebeians, who were kind of at odds with each other. Rome is also a bureaucracy. They have their Senate. They have their different government officials. They end up getting conquered by the Germanic tribes. And so Rome as an empire falls in 476, which is one of those big dates that you need to remember. 476. Like I said, everyone has a bureaucracy. Most of them are centralized. We are building roads because they're important, because they're for supply lines. We can move troops so we can get to places where there are problems. They're trying to use diplomacy. They're building forts and outposts to try to help protect everybody. So realize what these imperial governments are doing. They're trying to promote trade and project military power. Speaking of trade, like these are all of our cities and we talked about them. They're all important for trade. I would come back and read this. I'm not going to talk a lot about it, but like this is like just why they all end up falling. But then trade, you get to trade. Super important. That's why we just did the whole map on trade. So these are all our different little routes. You have the Silk Road, you have the Indian Ocean, and they're going to connect all these different regions in a way that hasn't been done before. Locations are going to help trade. The goods involved, like we're trading gold and silver and lapis lazuli and silk, spices, all this kind of stuff. We're trading religions, and it's going to be the technology that does that. We have the saddle and the stirrup, which let you ride really foreign horses in the Indian Ocean. We have the lateen sail and the dhow, which are going to help make use of the monsoon winds. So just realize how important trade is. This isn't going anywhere. And we're going to pick up Unit 1 talking about trade. Like Unit 1 and 2 are all going to be about trade. So do your review, watch these videos, breathe. You should do better on this test than you think you're going to do. Don't let it stress you out.